So let's dive into one of the most fascinating moments in the entire Bhagavad Gita. Right after Arjuna witnesses this incredible, mind-bending cosmic revelation, his very first request is, well, it's pretty surprising. We're going to break down why asking to see a gentler, more personal form isn't a sign of weakness, but actually an act of profound psychological wisdom. And yeah, this is the big question, right? It's the central paradox we're unpacking today. Just try to imagine it. You have been shown the ultimate, unfiltered truth of the entire cosmos. You're looking right at the engine of reality itself. And your first thought is, you know what? Can I please see something else? Something a little smaller? Why on earth would Arjuna do that? And what does it teach us about the nature of truth and our own human capacity to actually hold it? To get why he makes this request, you have to appreciate what he just saw. I mean, this was not some peaceful, blissful vision of light and harmony. No, he saw totality, completely raw and unfiltered. He witnessed time itself as this terrifying, destructive force, literally consuming all beings. He saw the universe's machinery laid bare, an awesome, terrifying inevitability that was completely devoid of any personal comfort. And that brings us to our first major idea here. That cosmic vision, while being absolutely true, is fundamentally an uninhabitable place for the human mind. Let's break down exactly why that is. You can really see the core mismatch here. On one side, you have the cosmic scale. It's accurate, it's total, it's infinite. But on the other side, you have our human consciousness, which is, limited and deeply personal. Our psyche needs grounding to make sense of the world. So while what Arjuna saw was absolutely the truth, it's just way too overwhelming for our minds to sustain for any length of time. Think about what happens to a person when they're faced with that level of totality. The psychological effects are, well, devastating. The ego, that sense of a separate self we all have, it just dissolves way too quickly for us to handle. Our personal sense of meaning, which is built on our individual purpose and our relationships, it just collapses. And that relational grounding we all depend on to feel safe and sane, poof, it's gone. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Here's the crucial insight. Truth, when you strip it of a relational context, becomes an unbearable, almost annihilating force. The thing is, Krishna never, ever intended for Arjuna to stay in that state. Okay, so this leads us to a really important point, one that challenges a common spiritual misconception. This idea that real strength means you have to endure the most brutal version of truth, no matter what it costs you personally. You've probably heard this idea before, right? This sort of glorification of overwhelming, brutal truth. It kind of suggests that if you flinch in the face of reality, it's a sign of weakness. But the Gita argues for something so much more nuanced, so much more compassionate than that. So it's so important to reframe what Arjuna is doing here. His request is not coming from a fear of truth. He's not rejecting reality. No, what this is a profound recognition of human limits. It is not weakness. It is psychological wisdom. It is knowing what the human psyche can actually hold and integrate without completely shattering. And ultimately, it all boils down to this. If an experience of truth completely annihilates your ability to function, to act, to live, then it's not liberating you. It's just paralyzing you. And a truth that leaves you paralyzed is definitely not the goal of the spiritual path that's being laid out in the Gita. So how does Krishna respond to Arjuna's desperate plea? Well, his response is absolutely key to understanding how we can take these massive cosmic truths and actually integrate them into our messy human lives. What's amazing is that Krishna doesn't scold Arjuna at all. He doesn't say, toughen up. He immediately returns to his familiar, gentle form. See, the cosmic form reveals reality. It shows what is. But it's the personal form that makes that reality livable. It allows for the how. How do I live my life now that I know this? The cosmic form brings the revelation, but the personal, relational form is what makes integration possible. And it is so critical to understand this point. Returning to the personal is not a step backward into ignorance. It's a necessary step forward. It's the process of taking an overwhelming truth and finding a way to live with it, to embody its wisdom, and to act from that place. That, right there, is integration. So, what does this ancient story really have to do with us today? Well, let's connect this wisdom to the very real challenges of our modern lives. It's more relevant than you might think. The truth is, we all experience our own versions of a universal vision, these moments that just completely shatter our worldview. It could be a sudden devastating loss. It could be witnessing a mass tragedy on the news. It could be a personal existential crisis where everything feels meaningless, or even a scientific insight that makes you feel totally cosmically insignificant. These are the moments when the brutal truth of reality just rushes in. And in those moments, the Gita offers a really clear prescription. First, acknowledge your human limits. You are not meant to bear this kind of thing alone or in some abstract way. Second, ask for gentleness from others and, just as importantly, from yourself. Third, actively seek grounding in relationship. Connect with people, with your community. And finally, work to integrate that overwhelming truth on a human scale that you can actually manage day to day. This really is the profound lesson of Chapter 11. Revelation is only half the journey. The other half is integration. Truth must be seen, absolutely, but it must also be held. And we, as human beings, hold truth through the container of relationship, our relationship with the divine, with each other, and with ourselves. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. In those moments when life presents you with an overwhelming, brutal truth, maybe the wisest, the strongest, and the most skillful act isn't just to grit your teeth and endure it, but to actually reach out and ask for the gentle form of connection.